Hey, everybody, welcome to today's episode of the What Worked For You show. Today, we're going to have a lot of fun. Our guest today is someone, he has started 29 companies. That's a lot. That's not one or two. Most entrepreneurs, we might, busy ones often might start a handful, but 29, what's the secret? What made someone like that tick? How do they make that happen? But just to let you know that our guest likes to keep busy, he's also a real estate investor. He is an author. He's a coach. Today he's running tax-free corporate events on cruise ships. That's correct, on cruise ships. That sounds very enticing to anybody. He loves to focus on the world of sales, but he loves to help people succeed. He's full of energy, he's full of passion, and we're looking forward to hearing what he's got to say today and learning. So, Joe Rockey, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yes, and thank you for that introduction. That's great. It's always a great opportunity to help teach people how to do something amazing, carry it forward, and make a difference into the world. Absolutely.
I love it. Well, let's dive in. Joe, you've built over 29 companies, or I think maybe I saw over, and now I'm starting to
No, it is
question
29.
myself. Was it 29 or more?
You lose track after a while, but 29 is
Who's
still 29.
counting, right? But you've authored a book. You run, and I didn't mention this. You host multiple podcasts. You speak on stages. What's the feeling that goes through your mind to see that level of real world impact in all these environments?
Well, I like it. I mean, that's what I built this whole thing to do, is to go out and to reach out and help make a difference. I mean, whether you're looking at the first podcast I ever started, which was like the dawn of my public speaking in 2017, which was it's Father and Joe. We still do it. It's a podcast that's strictly about building relationships, the relationship you have with yourself, the relationship you share with other, all underneath the umbrella of the relationship you have with God. And that was the starting point of getting out there, of really trying to make a difference in the world. And, it doesn't matter what show I'm on, it's trying to give some element of building better relationships, build better sales techniques, or just even a different outlook that you can take into your world that will certainly increase your wallet. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But it more importantly will increase your relationships with everyone else. And we as human beings are built for a lot of things. Very high on that list is we are built to have relationships and be in relationship with each other. So the more you can focus upon that, it's breathing air into your soul. It's something that's necessary and important. And to answer your question, it gives me a great amount of pride knowing that I'm helping other people do that.
No, it's awesome. So, a couple of things on that. First, about the relationships. We all come across, especially if we're business owners, we come across a lot of people, right? All sorts. But sometimes our best skills, and maybe a lot of us just learned this the hard way, and I'm not sure if there's a way to learn it without going through some ups and downs, but sometimes we put energy into relationships that prove to maybe not be the ones that we need to be putting the energy into.
Mm-hmm.
As business owners, entrepreneurs, or maybe not even entrepreneurs, maybe maybe the listener's an employee at a company. How do you know, yes, this is the person I need to put relational energy into? Because relational energy is, right, it's personalized, it's
Mm-hmm.
heavy. If it doesn't work out, there's a burden that comes with that. It's energy we don't want to waste. We want to get that right. What can we do to improve in that area as best we can?
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Because it's different than any other form of energy, because there's ourselves are attached to it. It's, money can become impersonalized at some point. We invested in a company, it failed, it was a bad investment. I bought this thing, it didn't work out. You might be upset or whatever, but you don't have that attachment, that part of you that went in the conversation. And you're right. Every person who learns this has to learn it through up and downs. I mean, that's fast forward. Sorry for giving a spoiler here. That's why everyone hates high school, because that's when you learn all this stuff. That's what puberty is when you really think about it. How do I learn whether or not I can trust someone? How should I be vulnerable? How do I actually become vulnerable? And who should I do it with and in what fashion? Each and every single one of us as people had a different road through that journey. Who I can trust, who I cannot trust, what are the indicators that say back away, like you're going to hurt me, Or what are the things that say, yeah, we're going to have a good connection? These are all things that each of us, while learning the broad dynamic of how to do it, have our own individual road that we carved that did that. So therefore, in terms of truly running out and connecting with someone, there is no universal footpath like there is with Google Maps. You go here, you take 4 blocks, and you turn left, and you take 3 blocks, and you turn right. That's not how it works with relationships, or else we'd be best friends with everyone. But if you sit back and think about your life, there's probably only 8 people at most that you will share anything with implicitly about your world. Maybe 8. And the reason is all of us have this natural process of pushing people away. And if they are good enough, we'll let them come in a little closer. But the first thing that we push people away is when we detect that how we think they're going to respond to us isn't within our preference zone. And this all happens like subconscious before you even open your mouth. Like this happens. Our bodies, for people who do not train themselves in this, are constantly exhibiting how we are going to respond to something bad. From something that happened in our lives earlier, how were we addressed? Was the problem instantly solved for us, someone jumping in and solving it? Were we ignored for creating the problem? Were we felt like we made it worse? All of these things that can happen to our younger selves that did happen to each of us, we came up with things we don't want. I don't want someone jumping in. I don't want someone ignoring me. Again, everyone has a different preference point on these things. There is no one universal answer of how I want to be treated, but we can see it in each other. How does our brain think you're going to interact with me? And if I see something that's a red flag, I'm going to push you away. If I see multiple things, I'm going to push you further away. So what I teach my clients and what I have done myself is essentially taught my body how not to show those scars so that people aren't seeing an instant reason to push away. And if you don't get repelled, you don't get repelled. You know, imagine going to a giant magnet and being the same kind of magnet you pushed away. You're never going to get close to it. It's going to be fighting it all day. But imagine instead of being a magnet, you're a piece of wood. You can walk right up to it, get there, and have everything you want. That is just the tip of the scientific iceberg, in which I do in my book and my sales course for people so they don't get repelled. But yeah, that's all part of relationship building. How to be connected with people, how to be vulnerable, how to connect with them. It's all part of it.
So this brings up an idea that's crossed my mind many times. One of the things I've learned is, we've all heard that phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, right? It's a cliche phrase. And one of the things I've learned, and through a couple of my mentors, is you never want to judge anything because it's so rare that we truly know the full story. It's rare that we even know half the story. In fact, most people are making judgments. It's like on maybe 10% of the known information. Because there's always two sides of the story, and it's always way deeper than what you might read or in your research or social media. There's always so much more because we're complicated people. But my question to you is, I thought that was great advice. And then I thought to myself, is it possible to truly not judge someone because of our conditioning?
It's not. I just sorry. I don't want to cut off the question if it's longer, but you can't. There's nothing you can do about that because it's not even your conditioning. It's your biology. Like our brains are built to make decisions. This goes back to the reptilian part of our brain. One of the most basic elements we all experience is fight or flight. That's a judgment. And that is hardwired in your survival instinct, which is the second largest drive of your entire being. So no, it isn't possible not to have judgment into your life. Now, thankfully, another thing that's also true is that many, unless you are intentionally sporadic or like bipolar, many people instinctually fall into habits, routines, whatever word you want to come, where if you keep doing the same thing with them, they'll keep basically treating you the same way in the output. Sure, everything will be slightly different because this happened on a Thursday and that was Tuesday morning. But in general, you come to your boss with the same type of complaint, they're going to respond the same type of way. You come to, that's how people become. It's their, that's the way we are. So what we ultimately normally end up doing, and this is what your brain does as a shortcut, is we don't look at the person as the individual, but more so as the sum of their patterns. And that's ultimately how you become faster and more correct in your judgments. But it all comes down to when you do look at a person, are they pushing us away? Are they wanting to see us succeed? Pattern interrupts, stuff like that. This is why you hear terminology like that you need to do, because if you want to be accurate at judging, you're looking at someone's patterns. Well, this person's come to late to the job site 3 weeks in a row. Do you think he's going to show up on time tomorrow? No, of course he's not. Like, this is what his pattern is. It's been established. You know, this person gives excuses and then we see half the shingles blow off the roof. Do you really want them to be your roofer? No. Now, there might be a whole lot of reasons why. Maybe he's colorblind. He can't see the strip. Maybe he doesn't know how to tell he's got enough guns in his gun. Or nails in his gun. It doesn't matter. Certain point, we only care about the results, especially when you're talking about hiring someone or buying something from someone.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And the crazy thing is sometimes these habits, you don't even realize you're falling into them sometimes.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things, I'll tell you one, and I'm guilty of this, is it's so easy in this world to overcommit.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you build something that you never thought you were going to do. And then you become a cleanup master. And I think that happens, and I've learned that this has happened with many entrepreneurs, is, they'll go do something, and the next thing you know, it's like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? This is not what I signed up for. But it's a common challenge. And working through that and getting the habits is,
I'm agreeing with you. I did that firsthand many times. I'm right there with you. There's some with experience of going down that road of being, I really don't want my business to be this. Why is this the thing we deal with every single day? It's a pretty good audit for your own business. Is the activity you actually want to be doing what your business does? And, from a just pure business perspective, every business only needs 3 parts. It only needs a way to have prospects to find you and want to be with you. Once they're find you, want to be with you, want them to buy from you, exchange resources for the promise of the future product, and then delivering on that future product. Everything else is extra. Like, you technically don't need an IT department. You don't need a payroll department. You can outsource all of this stuff as long as you're accomplishing people find you, you sell to them, and then you deliver on your product or service. So if you look at that, there's a lot of extra stuff we can end up diving into. Be like, maybe I'll figure out how to build this great bot, and it will like interface, and it'll be all this stuff. But dude, we're not an IT company. We're trying to sell phone books. Like, what are you doing? Like, and this is what ends up happening with a lot of us all over the place. So yeah, no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, well, exactly. And then that's, you've created a monster that you're like, what is this? Which I guess that's a great segue to my next question then. Let's piggyback off that. If we want to do a business, whatever the business is, like I do real estate, you've done real estate, you've done a number of other things, we're diving into other things, but we live in a world that's full of shiny objects. It's never been easier, I guess, to be distracted. Of course, now you have social media and all that. Yeah, and it's like I always use Instagram because I think it's a great example. If you open up Instagram, it's like post, ad, post, ad, post, right? And, if you buy everything you're being pitched on Instagram, you should cover all the bases eventually. But the question is, how does that business owner, because we need marketing, we do need that. How do we know as business owners, because you started 29 companies, like, what was okay, I need my marketing, and how does that fit into the 3 things you said? I mean, it would fit into the first one, I would think.
It is the first one, yeah.
To determine, that's it. We've covered A, we've covered B, we've covered C, we're done. Don't add anything to it because it's so easy to add. It's so easy.
It is. And I'm actually going to take a step further back, or maybe it's a step to the left to look at this puzzle correctly. And the starting point is that the vast majority of people out there talking about who their ideal prospect is, their ideal client are looking at it 100% wrong. Your ideal prospect has nothing to do with their income level, their gender, their height, their age, their anything. If you can measure it by the way they look, smell, or taste, you're doing it wrong. Now, the reason everyone does that is because it's really easy to steal that information and get it. I mean, hell, we give it away for free when we sign up for Instagram. What is our age, income level, etc. So it's really easy to capture that data. But it has nothing to do with why a prospect wants to work with you, why a client wants to hire you. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. What they care about is, what do they get from your company? What is the product or problem that your company is solving for them? Because at the end of the day, when you're buying something, it's the same as when you're hiring someone. It's because either you don't have the time or ability to do something. That's why I'm hiring you. Because I don't have the time or ability to program the next amazing video game. I'm just going to buy one. Or I don't know how to put a roof, or I don't want to be on an asphalt roof in August because that ain't fun. I'd rather hire someone to do that. Well, what's the problem they're buying from you? Well, in the case of the roof, it's they don't want water to come through their house and destroy their house. It could be they just don't want to do it because, let's face it, it's not fun being on a roof in August. It could be a variety of things. It could be the insurance company's annoying them. They just don't want to get annoyed by the insurance company or lose their home insurance. These are all different problems that you are solving through the solution of new three-dimensional roof. And where people get in trouble is they go into rabbit holes that have nothing really to do with it. Like, we can put artwork on your roof and we can use different colored shingles so you have a logo or something like that. We can spell out your name, which I've seen people do. Those are all like cool gimmicky things. And if if the problem they're really solving is we want to make your house unique to you, that's a different problem than the insurance company is yelling at me and I just need to put a new roof on, or the storm came through and I have hail damage. I just need to make sure that things don't break. So it's simultaneously knowing what problem you want to solve. And this is how you differentiate yourself within the roofing industry. And again, I'm just using roofing as an example. This is applicable to any business. So do you want to be the guy who does the artistic stuff? Do you want to be the guy who still deals with box gutters? You know, all of these different roofing choices that you can specialize in. And now you know, from the prism of what is the problem we solve, you then know how to communicate with it. And you communicate it by simply showing, when you're doing your marketing, we understand your problem and what it is. Fast forward, this is how awesome it is after it's solved. Do not deal with the middle part of you actually solving it. I'm going to switch industries or stick the roofers. No one's going to talk about and hire you because they're going to have a dumpster full of broken tar and pieces of roof all over their yard. No one wants to hear about that part or think about that part, or that there's going to be constant noise banging on the top of the roof, waking up the babies. You don't talk about that part. You talk about you needed a roof so water wasn't coming in. Now you're going to have an awesome roof 3 weeks later, or however long it takes. You guys get the core concept. The middle part of how you're doing the solution is irrelevant to the client's problem. And that seems so wrong to so many business owners because that's the part we live in. We live in the part of how we do stuff and how we solve the problem. But that's not what the client's getting from us. The client is getting the solution to the problem. It's a completely different way of looking at it. And I apologize for that answer being a little bit long, but that's how you have to address the marketing problem. And then how you go about it, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, that's dealer's choice. There is no golden bullet to that.
So it's almost like, as the business owner, you're basically flipping between two different mindsets, right? You've got your sales mindset, marketing, completely catered to the client, but then there's the implementation.
Mm-hmm.
which now that's, your internal processes, whatever it is, to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it comes down to two questions. And guys, for you listening, this will be the part to take out notes because this is the fundamental answer. This is what will tell you whether or not your business will live or die, be successful. Tell me your answer to these two questions. Question number one: what is the relationship between your business and your prospects slash clients? Question number two: what is the relationship between your business and your employees? And for those who are small businesses, that is not the same as the relationship with you, the owner, and the employees. It is what is the relationship between the business and the employees. If either of those answers start out with, well, it's good, but your company's going to die. It's just a matter of how long will it take. As long as the answer is it's good, but, or it's fine, but, however you get to there, if it is not two stunning answers between the relationship of your prospects and the relationship with your employees, you're going to have problems. So yes, you're 100% right. It is looking through both lenses. The lens of the relationship with the employees, that's operations. How do we do stuff correctly? What's our internal process? How do we incentivize people? How do we make them want to become better? How do we increase innovation? These are all things that we can talk about and teach people. And then also from the sales side, how do we let them truly know the problem that we solve and how awesome it's going to be after we fix it? Because at the end of the day, by the way, sales should not be this one big cringe moment. Like, are they going to say yes?
Mm-hmm.
Sales should be just essentially a logistical question. Like, how are we going to make this happen? Because if you've already illustrated that you understand their problem and that they like your answer, that's all it is logistics. It's not a one big moment of gotcha. And then after we figured out this whole big budget talk and anything else, it'd just be like, all right, this is what we're going to do. If this is what you want, this is logistically how we can make it happen. Nice and smooth. Most people don't sell correctly, as a side story.
Yeah, no, and sales is something there's a lot to that world,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a lot to that world, but we're going to get there. Let me ask you this. So at a high level, and we're going to talk a little bit about the casino thing, but casinos, the boardrooms, you've coached people on culture,
Mm-hmm.
sales, stress, growth. Across all these companies, what's an achievement you've had that you're most proud of?
Hmm. I'm actually going to go way back in the day. I guess this is what many people who have created a lot of different businesses and they think it's like the big shiny one, like the one that would be like actually publicized and people would talk about. But for mine, it goes back to the first one, and I made a lot of mistakes with my first business, make no doubt about that. But it was the day that I realized I actually accomplished what I wanted, which was I didn't have a boss bearing down at me that was wrong. I didn't have to answer to anyone else's mistakes. I was accountable for all my own mistakes, but I had no one else putting their opinion upon it. And in that moment, it was truly flight or die. Either you're making this thing work, or it's not gonna, or you're gonna fail crashing in it. And it was that moment in both that I accepted that I'm going all in on this, and then saw that it's off the ground and it will stay in the air. It's just on me not to crash it. Like the plane is in the air now, and that was that moment. And it was probably about 3 months into that first business when it was, yeah, this is going to work. And I mean, quite frankly, it wasn't even that big of a sale. It was only like a couple $100, but it was getting the knowledge through that this notion, this business is going to work.
Mm.
And that was it. So like I said, it definitely would have made no headlines. It wouldn't have been something fun and exciting, but that was it. That I was never going to have another boss again. I might have partners that have ownership in businesses. Don't do that anymore, but I used to. But I will never have a true boss ever again.
No, that's fair. Well, let's go back in time a little bit then, piggybacking off of that.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. Kind of reminds me in real estate is we always remember our first deal,
Yeah.
even if it's a small deal. We always remember the first one, maybe the second, third, fourth, fifth, but the first one we never forget that one.
Yeah, you remember the other ones if something bad happened.
Yeah, well, that too. Well, before you got into real estate, you got into business. What was that first business, and what led you to decide I want to be a business owner?
So the first business was a flipping company. Was buying broken real estate properties, fixing them and reselling them. I mean that was the first business. So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, what got me into that was I was what 23 at the time, I think, when I did the first one. I had been in sales since I was 16. Every real job I had basically was sales. Not counting the stuff where I was, pushing the lawnmower for Pappy because that doesn't really count. But in terms of actual, getting paid for and getting commission checks, I fell in love with the commission only lifestyle, where, you know what, I might not be making a sale every single day. In fact, at that point, it was like once every 3 months. But I saw that when that sale went through, I was making more collectively than all the people working minimum wage at Target were. So all my peers, were, selling their time for money. And not saying that I wasn't putting time into trying to sell the stuff, but when that hit happened, you live like a king because you get that giant commission check, which for comparison speaking was have been like $400. Giant then versus giant now can change sometimes in that regards. But that was the answer. So I came out of college during the last recession with a degree in accounting and finance. When, if you remember the last recession, every accounting firm was on edge. They were buying each other. They were dying. They were getting canceled because, well, long story short, Enron um, brought down one of the major accounting houses, and then the rest of them had a ripple effect. And then from the banking world, they were in a crisis. And who were the people they were blaming? Landlords. So I looked at it and said, I want to go into doing something where I will get paid for the rest of my life for work that I did when I was younger. And that was still something that drives my decisions about what businesses to make. And at the time, there was no subscription model. There was no Netflix. There was no Disney Plus, anything like that. The only thing you paid on a subscription model was your taxes, your mortgage slash rent, and your utilities. And while being at my first job of selling life insurance, I was good at it. I was rookie of the year the first year, underclassman the second year, and the third year I left. I didn't have enough money to buy a utility company though. But what I did have was the pathway to be able to get to a landlord company, which was get capital from doing flips, buy a broken landlord one, or split that profit into buying a broken rental property and buying another flip. And then just continue that process, keeping the rentals along the way, and eventually you'll get there. That was essentially the business model from a very high level point, and that's how I started it. So that was what got me into it, was the desire to have residual income, and the only real option at the table was being a landlord at that point. So that's what got me into being real estate. That's the starting point.
I love it. Something I want to ask. You mentioned in there your first sales job, if I understood you correctly, was as selling insurance.
That was the first one after college. That was the first real one. I mean,
First,
I had sold the knives before that, as anyone might have had a college kid come to their house selling knives. I was one of them. I was one of the ones who was wildly successful at it. But yeah, yeah.
so, but the thing is, even before the insurance, so you were selling knives,
Mm-hmm,
now you're selling insurance,
mm-hmm.
and of course you got to get trained to do that and that sort of thing, right? Because
Yeah.
in that particular financial world. But do you think, and you mentioned, yeah, you had a lot of success in that quickly with the insurance. Is sales something that we make it too hard for ourselves, or can it be easy for anybody?
Yes. Yes to both. Yeah, 100% yes to both. So the
Some people say
problem,
it's like, some people are like, oh, that, no, there's just a natural to them. I could never do that, right? Like,
well, all right. Let's attack this problem from the positive side, and then I'll hit the negative side.
all
The
right,
positive side is that you literally have all the skill set you need to be successful at sales the moment you're born. And we are selling every single second of our day, whether we realize it or not. If you think about it, as a baby, you need to get fed, you need to stay warm, you need to get changed, or else you die if those don't happen. Period. So You're in the process of connecting with someone, getting them to give you what you want, and keeping the whole world going on. Now, the problem is when we're infants and when we're younger, unless you hit a degree of maturity, you stay this way. It's only self-centered. It's only, what can I get out of it? What's in it for me? What's in it for me? And what people eventually get to is, I don't want to live that way, because it's very unnatural and unhealthy to live in a mindset that is only what's in it for me. This is one of the dichotomies that every person has to fight. We are always making decisions to help us live longer and be successful in just staying alive on this marble. However, we despise when people are only acting through selfish self-interest. It's a paradox, it's a contradiction, whatever the actual right grammatical term for that is. That's what goes on with inside all of us every single day. That's the bad news. And this isn't a new thing, by the way. If you go to the Bible, the profession that gets hated on more than any other profession throughout the duration of the Bible is salespeople. It is a fact of it. So even more than Roman soldiers. So it has always been this way of, what can I get from you to accomplish what I want? I mean, our modern trope of it is the used car salesman. You're not getting off this lot unless you're taking the car that I want you to take. We all know it in our various different ways. It still permeates the sales world today. But when you are doing sales correctly, what you're really going to be doing is creating win-win situations for both of you. Both sides should see that there's value in it for each other by entering into this. One of the major faults that my clients have made throughout the years is this thought that they're not equal to the person buying from them, and the money is the most important thing that's transferring back and forth. And that's simply not the case. By definition of economics and capitalism, it is the same amount on each side is equal the same. It's a balanced seesaw. So I need that roof, and I'm willing to cut a really big check for it. Well, it gets in that salesperson head that, oh, I'm going to be asking for, I don't know, 50 grand, 40 grand, whatever the case might be for that roof. And then they think about themselves, am I worth 50 grand? Am I worth 40 grand? It doesn't matter what you think you're worth. What matters is, what does the marketplace think it is? And the fact of the matter is, this is what's balanced for here. So that's the raw kind of like math behind it. And no one likes the logical stuff, but it's still, you should know it. At the end of the day, when you're truly selling correctly, you should be able to talk to someone and find out what their real problem is. Why am I really buying this? What is the true importance? And if you just stay at that surface level of, I'm going to switch to cars here now, of I just want 4 wheels and an engine, you don't move anything. No one buys based on features and benefits. This is a lie that came out of Amazon and eBay. What people buy upon is, do I trust that you actually understand the real problem that's going on inside my soul? And do I believe that you actually want to fix it? So the real reason I'm buying this SUV is because I just want to feel safe. I don't want to be low to the ground to get run over by a semi. Or, you know what? I know it'll fit all the guys and they don't hang around anymore. But if I pick them up and throw their golf clubs in the trunk, I know I'll still see them. These are reasons you buy the big Yukon or whatever the equivalent is nowadays. It has nothing to do with horsepower or Keller or anything like that. It is about what is the actual problem that got solved. And it's obviously different for every single person. So how do you get someone to open up and be vulnerable with their real problem? You yourself have to be comfortable being vulnerable yourself. They will detect it within you, and then boom, you can get to the real reality, which again is the sale. The sale is, did that person open up and say, you know, I'm really buying this SUV because it hurts when I bend down in my car, and I'll be damned if my daughter finds that out because I ain't going to no home. So I'm buying an SUV so my knees don't hurt, and she won't be able to detect it. That has nothing to do with the logo that's on the front of that car. It has to do with him not getting put in a home or his daughter yelling at him. What's the real powerful reason they bought it? Mm-hmm. This is when you do sales correctly, how you do it versus forcing people to do what you want.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and that's a great point about being vulnerable because that's a risk, right? For a lot of people, the idea of being vulnerable, that's a risk. That's like, "Oh, I don't know about that. That's right. You get into all of that. But as you were, I want to talk about vulnerability. You were building your first company, so now you're in real estate. You're doing your thing. At what point did you say, let's start company number two? And what was the vulnerability you sensed at the time that may have made you hesitate before you finally pulled the trigger?
So in that regards, again, being in the world of real estate, when we talk about starting the second business, I don't know if I actually was ready for it, but I kind of got forced into it. And I got forced into it by what every real estate investor knows exists, a lawyer. um, Long story short, he told me that because of the liability of owning a rental and you should never be correlated with a flip, and that's why I did it. Aside from just owning a piece of paper saying I have an LLC with a different title on it, it was also a radical game shift in the way I viewed it. Because from just doing the flip component, it's all about finding the next one. Finding the next one. Is the math going to work where we put this in, we buy at this price, we put this much work in, will the equity be there when we sell it on the back end? And it's all about hunting new, and new. But on the landlord side of it, it's about finding that diamond, finding that one that I want forever. And that is a wildly different mentality. And so again, some of them I made great decisions on, some of them I made horrible decisions on. But then it was also the reality when it came time to selecting that first tenant I actually gave the keys to, and having that leap of trust. Because that's, in terms of vulnerability, that's the economic vulnerability moment, is if they destroy this house, that's going to cost me all the time to refix it, the cost of refixing it, and then all of that lost revenue when it's vacant. Like, there's a lot of risk. You guys already know that, being landlords. So that moment of accepting that and thinking it through and saying, this is still something I want to do. There's a lot of gut checks in that moment. Now, granted, it's not relationship vulnerability like I was talking about with sales, but that was a vulnerability acceptance of the risks of the company. Where could the company break and how could it break? And in that case, it's literally a tenant breaking your hot water tank. So that's the situation there.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So, flipping, landlording, when did you start your first non real estate business?
First non-real estate business came into play really as a result of COVID. Quite frankly, I live in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania was the fifth hardest shut down state. We weren't allowed to work on a property that was vacant. So do this math real quick. You can't do a flip because no one's in it. A tenant moves out and the house needs fixed. You're not allowed to fix it because now the house is vacant. How are you supposed to move your portfolio forward? I did not see an answer aside from being very angry, drinking all day, and yelling at the internet. But that wasn't moving the needle. So after 2 weeks of doing that, being one of those people, seeing my business get destroyed by incorrect decisions, which I'll never change my mind on that. What I saw was I have to figure it out. I have to figure this problem out. This is a new problem that for a decade we did not have to deal with because things were working. How do we deal with Harrisburg telling us we're not allowed to do our jobs? And it was a completely different way of approaching business because it was a different industry. It was the industry lead. And that was when the consultancy firm built. Because not only did I figure out how to do it for my own business, it was then teaching other people how to do it. And then that was the consultancy firm of how it started as how to navigate COVID. And then what I realized I ultimately was building for people was I was building businesses and transforming businesses for people that they didn't have to work in. And then they were exiting these things like crazy because they weren't involved. And I found out a secret that I stumbled into, which was no one buys a business because of how much money it makes. They buy the business because of how much money it makes and how much time do they have to put into it. The same way it is when buying a rental property. I can buy a property that's a ton of cash flowing wealth, but if I know I got to go in and constantly work in and micromanage the tenants, it ain't worth as much if it's worth anything at all. So getting that decision and learning that skill set of how to make businesses 100% operate without the owner involved, that was the skill set of the consultancy firm. And that was the turn. And then once learning that skill set, it was night and day. I was just like, oh, that sounds like a cool idea. Do I think there actually would be does this actually solve a problem for people? Is it there? And then they said they just started coming and going, all kinds of different stuff. And the cool part is there's always new ideas about problems. I just see them every day. It's like, wonder if other people have that problem. Could it actually be solved, or is this a fact of life thing? Like, can't solve gravity, but we can solve a lot of other things.
Well, now that is true. And so effectively, you realized at that point in time, let's start focusing on solving problems first.
Yeah, well, non-real estate problems, yeah, because I was still solving
Right.
problems for the real estate. It's just,
Right.
do we
And those
blow
are
out that wall? Do we
easy,
not?
right?
Like this kitchen looks horrible.
Right.
How are we going to fix this? It's just there was a different style of problem rather than the same problem over and over again for a decade, which is what I was solving. It was
But
now
But
universal
in
business.
real estate, you always hear about passive income, but everyone knows in real estate that's been in it for a while, passive income doesn't really exist unless you're investing in like a syndication, which even that's not passive because now you got to vet the syndicator, and that doesn't happen in 5 minutes. Right? So there's always work, but
Oh yeah,
then you get into, okay, now I'm in these other businesses and I'm solving problems. And it's like, oh, there is a way a business can run effectively without me being in the midst of everything, which is quite, which that is a huge aha moment for entrepreneurs when it's like, oh, wait, when your assistant says, we got it, get out.
yeah. No, and quite frankly, you can do it with real estate too. But the problem is that most people don't have it large enough that they can. You can't do it with just 1 or 2 units because there's not enough spread. There's not enough revenue to go around to everyone,
Right.
unless you're like in a tax-free environment. But once you get to a spot where there's appropriate revenue, yeah, you can do it with real estate too. It's just getting to that point, and that's a digression. I go down the real estate rabbit hole. But to answer your question, yeah, that's right. It's I don't need to be an expert in everything. And if we go back to the beginning of this podcast, every business needs 3 things. It needs to have prospects to discover who you are and have an interest to come see you. It has to have the ability that once they're seeing you, to have them give you money in exchange for the future gift or the future service, and then the delivery on the service. There is no personality type that can do all 3. In fact, most of us can really only do 1, maybe 1.5. And most of those guys are cheating, and their real product or service is either selling sales or marketing. That's cheating. If you're like an accountant, the accountants can't do both. I mean, they can't do all 3. It just doesn't work that way. So when you're looking at this from that starting point, you recognize you have to have outside people. Whether it's by outside people, I mean you not doing everything. Whether it be you're hiring a partnership or a provider to do marketing for you or to do your sales for you or whatever, there's going to have to be other people involved. The notion of a solopreneur is a misnomer. No one can do it all by themselves very long. And that is part of how you build a company that be self-sufficient. You recognize that fact, you put the appropriate incentives with the appropriate talent to be able to take care of the other tasks. And as long as the whole thing mathematically works out at the end, the thing can last forever. It's just, will it, can it, and how are you watching it? How are you building it, really?
So once you made the shift from real estate, then you had these aha moments. So then it sounds like you were able to start a lot more companies
Mm-hmm.
more quickly. So what drove such rapid acceleration to do that?
Um, I guess it was a couple of things. One of which was the consultancy clients. I came on as partners with a couple of them. I saw their other. When I built relationships with guys who literally had just sold their businesses. So now we're sitting around with a pile of money, going with, "What's that other problem you've been complaining about your whole life? Do you think we can do something about that?" And by the way, it's a whole lot easier to build a business from the starting point than it is to transform it. with the mindset of incentivizing your people correctly and creating an entirely different shift in which I teach people. None of my employees are ever hourly or salary. They're all work-based performance contracts. They're all commission-based, really, at the end of the day. So building that is a whole lot easier starting that way than trying to retrofit it on. But that was the answer. Was one, we had a couple clients that really hit it off. I obviously was hitting things off with the real estate business, and it was then just looking at different opportunities, especially in the we're re-waking up out of COVID environment of how to hit it. And like I said, it was Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania was shut down for 2.5 years, basically. The rest of the country wasn't. You guys are lucky. And in some ways, it was a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because I was able to build up the case studies and the proof with other clients that this works. This is something you can implement. It was a curse because we were so late in entering the re-entry to life category that a lot of people had already built a lot of the awesome things that we competed with a little bit. But that was ultimately what did it. From a very high level structural standpoint, it was I built a system that I know works. I know it's replicatable. Then it was just like, we're just looking for problems to solve. Just like it is for flips. My expertise is I want to find houses with really small kitchens so I can blow out their dining room wall and make a massive kitchen and have basically an eating kitchen without a dining room because no one really cared about dining rooms where I was at. So that's what we did. It was something I specifically looked for and I found it. In this case, was just looking for problems to make people's day-to-day lives easier and hopefully getting them off of their phones. Doesn't always necessarily succeed on the second part, but that was still part of the goal.
So there's something you mentioned in there I want to ask about. There's a lot of entrepreneurs. It's like a dream. Not ready for employees, but we're totally good if we get performance-based people, commission people, basically. Most investors will say, where are these people? Much less, how do I hire them? What's your secret? Because you just said, well, the whole team's running that way. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like everyone's deal. Like that's
All right, so let's take it with an easy starting example. Say you have a person who really likes being an artist, essentially. They like drawing things, like JPEG images. However they do it, they do it. For most companies in America, the person who's making the JPEG images for Instagram or Facebook or whatever platform you're looking on for the ads, they don't really ever make money until they become the director of marketing. I mean, that's where the real money is at. That's just an entry-level position. You do it, you deal your time with it, you move on. But there's some people that really love that work. They love figuring out how to do it. They just don't like being stuck in the confines or the fact that it doesn't pay, which is also a confine. And what we do is say, hey, at the end of the day, we want there to be successful ads so people come into our bar. That's ultimately what we want. And what we're gonna put on each of your ads, a little QR code, you gotta deal with that. And that QR code is basically going to indicate that they saw your ad and that's why they're here. We'll give them something to make it worthwhile, 10% off, wing night, whatever. Just something that we know that they saw it on your ad. So that way we can say you're the one who sent the leads. Cool. Reason it's incentive for them is if the better I get at this and the more people I send, the bigger a check I get. That's a win-win for both the company and the employee. The other thing is now I can make real money even if I'm not getting promoted. I can live a lifestyle I want doing the work I want. So it's a completely different way of approaching the situation. The other major problem in how this works, which can't really get ignored, is that the hiring process in this country is fundamentally broken. It just is. And there's a lot of reasons behind it, but to try to summarize it quickly is this, is that if you are experienced at hiring someone, you're able to read their personality type, what will make them happy, what will make them excited quickly. Your job as the hiring officer is to fill that chair. It doesn't matter whether that person's going to stay in that chair or not. You have to fill it today or else you're going to get yelled at. HR sucks, but that's the job they have. So what do? They write personality or they write descriptions that are universal to all personality types. Even if what they're hitting on you is only 3% or 10% of the job, they know that's the part that'll be exciting to you, so they push it along your way so you take it. That is a wild mistake. When we make positions, we do it with a specific task in mind. That's what you get compensated for. And we only lean into that. There are 2 to 3 tasks per position you get paid for. That's it. So at the end of the day, someone is gravitating towards it because this is actually what I want. It's not a trap. It's not, I'm going to get here and then now I'm at work. I'm not doing anything what this job description or this job purpose was. 6 months in, I feel like I'm getting lied to. 9 months in, I'm gone. And that's the way essentially hiring is in America now. And that's before you even put this mountain of AI resumes on top of it. But nonetheless, you solve it by writing dialed in to what the function is, what would make it great, and what you have to do, and be incredibly transparent about it from the beginning. People will come to it if you are transparent. Like if you're doing a contracting job right now, I need someone who can replace my underground sewer line. This is what I'm paying for it. Like that's it. People will call you up to bid on it. I mean, that's how it is. It's just a different way of going about it. And, you know, not all of them are technically full-time employees anymore. Some of them just submit their stuff. They get the results they want. They're happy. Some of them find out, oh, damn, that Monday didn't give me enough money as I thought it was going to be. I'm going to remake it. So now I got a more vigilant who's willing to test more employee than someone who just goes, oh, I'll get to it next week. And meanwhile, that week you lost revenue for the other 5 days. So what kind of employee do you want? Someone who's hungry and wants to do it, that has innovation, or someone that's just getting paid to show up?
Well, for someone who's going to be commission based, they got to show up. And,
Yes, they do.
and even then, sometimes they don't show up, right? Just, you know, because they realize, hey, this is not what they're built for, or they don't want to do it, or whatever the reason may be.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, putting that that's why you want to be wildly detailed as far as specific, as far as this is what you will be doing. And when you're doing the interview process, you make sure the person actually at their soul wants to do that. Because it might be something you hate doing, and that's why this position exists, because you don't want to do it. There is someone out there who would love doing it. So you're going to have to find someone by default who's different from you, because they're going to have to want to do something you hate. And as long as it's an ethical thing, that's a normal business-related activity, that will exist, and that's how this economy works.
Oh, for sure. Let's talk about Casino Sales Master for a minute. What brought, what is it? Because it sounds very intriguing, but what brought it to life? Like, what was the driver? Is like, you know what, let's do it.
So let me start with what it is, because I think that'll answer the why we did it. What Casino Sales Master is, it's the culmination of the fact I've been classically trained by 2 of the most premier sales companies in the world. And it's right up there with Sandler, Dale Carnegie, Ziegler. They're all teaching people how to sell. And structurally speaking, they're right. I mean, it's putting the framework in a house. There's a way to do it. It's how you're supposed to do it. But what they fail upon is the same thing the 97% of the population fails upon, which is what I was talking about in the beginning of this podcast, the important part of how to get someone to want to open up so I will let them swim in my ocean of emotions. How do I get someone that actually want to see them succeed? And it's so revolutionizing different. This is part of, I guess all these questions are combining now. Why was I able to make so many companies so quick? Because they kept working. Why were they working? Because people kept buying. Why were people buying? Because I was able to connect with them about what their real problem was and have them share it. Have it share with them, and then they wanted it more. Like that's the full essence of it. And it's so wildly powerful, I had to tell people about it. And then the question was, well, now that you wrote this book, what are you going to call it? And, 40% of it's a narrative of me using my sales system in a casino. That's a starting point. But what I also wanted to show was something that every culture universally agreed upon as an impossible feat, which backs you up to the question of, what does every culture in the world actually agree upon? And it's not a long list. It's, I like air to be clean, water's important, casinos are built to take your money. That's why they exist. So if you can walk into a casino and have those people that every person in the world knows is built to take your money, and you can have those people want to pay you, that's a completely different sales system. That's something I actually will pay attention to. And hence why the book is called Casino Sales Master, Proven System to Beat the Odds in Sales and Life.
That's pretty cool. So then what led to the cruise ship thing? Because, right,
So the
that's
cruises actually
exciting.
were the next step of it.
How
So
to-
after I published the book, the
okay.
publisher tells me the same thing every author gets told. Go do a speaking tour. Go out, promote it basically. Which, by the way, you can get it on Amazon. I don't want to neglect that. But
Sure,
I'm
sure.
going out. I'm fighting to get on other people's stages, which that in and of itself is what it is. I didn't like it, but it is what it is. But what I glaringly saw come after me was the companies that were sending their people, normally salespeople. I had a book about sales. I normally was speaking at salespeople conventions. They weren't getting what they were really buying. When you're sending your employees out on an event, you want a lot of things. You want to have, obviously, them learn stuff that's going to help them sell more stuff, get a positive ROI. But you also want that team building, that bonding, and all the other ancillary effects that come from an event. But if you're doing an event in somewhere fun, Nashville, New Orleans, Manhattan, Vegas, what happens? They get done with the event. Half of them want to go see Britney. Half of them want to go play slots. The other half wants to go just shoot stuff. Someone wants to see the Hoover Dam. So everyone scatters. So the only way you can really fix that is keep your event lasting until 11 a.m. at night. Well, then you don't have any of the fun stuff of the actual team bonding stuff. So it's a really hard problem with events. And then you also have to deal with all the extra stress of now I got to figure out how to plan all these meals. I got to deal with hopefully no one gets a DUI or arrested. All these other ancillary problems that come with sending your people on an event. And I was like, all right, I can solve those. I can make an event better that can solve those. And then the lightning bolt hit me. I was like, if I could put it all on one invoice, the entire package, it can all be a tax write-off. So where can I put people where they will stay together, they will have incentives to network with each other and not scatter, give them the training, which is why it's tax deductible, and be able to make it worthwhile, and then go the extra step forward and bring their spouses involved. Because so many businesses are failing at the relationship with their employees because they ignore their families. The employees' center of their world is not your business. It's their personal life. They are using you as a way to make their personal life better. That is not a problem. That does not make them a bad employee. That makes them a normal person. Address it. So if you actually let them have an incentive that is household included, again, something that has been ignored and ran away from the corporate world for the last 20 years, you have something completely different. So why did I want to build the cruises? Was it solved the personal side. So now I see why you're putting 60 hours into this law firm, even though who really wants to be a partner here anyway? But you want to do it. I'll deal with it. Okay. You actually get the training from it. So how you can be better in court, how you can connect with a jury better so they give you the settlement you want or whatever. There's no logistical hurdles of figuring out 500 different meals because that's all taken care of you. We do that by the cruise. That's what Elite Business Cruises does. And there is ultimate team bonding because you're going to go jump off waterfalls and be in some of the best beaches in the world and stuff like that. Like it solves all of the mega problems that the real buyers of the events were doing, which was part of the other issue I didn't like because the events were hiring me. So they were my buyer, but the real buyer is the audience. So if you get the audience and solve what their problem is, now you have a culture, an event where you can build everything forward it, and people give you better results. I have car dealer clients that literally have done quarterly cruises with me, and we rig it so it's profitable before they even start. So they know how much the price of the ticket is. They make sure they sell enough cars so they make money before they even kicks off, and then they do it every quarter. And the first couple, actually, correction, all of them had like the same 6 guys on them. And then about the third or fourth one, a new set, about 3 guys who've been on every one since. I asked, hey, why weren't you guys on the first couple? You guys clearly know how to sell cars. And I'm like, oh, I used to work at the Toyota one across the street, but I switched here because now me and my wife get 4 free weeks in Aruba, and I was never going to get that Toyota. And the secret part is Ford actually is paying them less. So they're paying less in employee expenses, they're getting better salespeople, and they're moving a whole lot more cars than they ever had before. Just by having one incentive package.
Yeah, shoot, maybe I'll go get a job there. That sounds good to me. I'm like, go hang out from Aruba for a month a year. It's pretty good.
It makes it incredibly worth it. Like I said, we can do this with every business. I mean, we specialize in sales, but we can do it with every element of a business. So yeah, sorry, I went down the whole rabbit hole of the cruises there, but you could tell I like seeing a problem and then solving it. And I guess in a lot broader sense, that was a little bit of a more in-depth answer about how did I build all these businesses. I saw problems and I dove in and did them.
Well, what's really neat about this is, and we say it tongue in cheek, but there's a lot of truth. It's, hey, now the employee is going on this cruise. He's learning, he's getting educated. His family's coming along. So it's meeting a key need, as you would, and I love the way you talked about it, is, the employees, I've never heard it worded that way, but it made sense. They're using you to meet that personal need, right? It's leverage for them. That it's a win-win, of course, has to be, but it's important. And it's just really fascinating on just how those incentives can really drive people. So it leads me to this one more question I have for you. And it was a tagline I saw that you used. It said, want prospects to stop lying to you or have employees run through fire. So how do you cultivate ultimately that kind of trust and fire? Like, and I think the context I saw was like with audiences, but like every employer wants whether they're employees, contractors, partners, vendors, doesn't matter. They want people to have that kind of level of commitment, loyalty, where you don't hear that much anymore.
So you don't? Not in an environment where over 50% of the employees are looking to work somewhere else. So yeah, let me answer this question and give you one other tidbit that is true, and some people fight me on it because they don't see the bigger picture. The reason AI is taking over this country has nothing to do with Siri. It's because companies have been failing at this fact that we just discussed. Your employees are supposed to get something out of working for me that goes beyond a paycheck. And the companies don't want to recognize that. They're horrible at dealing with the relationship with their employees, so they outsource it to a computer that won't go away. The true demand is the trillions of dollars that the companies are buying these AI programs for, not you using Siri to find out who won the 1916 World Series. That's the simple truth of it. So you want your employees to go through fire for you. You recognize that reality of what you just said, that we said tongue in cheek. It's like, yeah, your employees are supposed to use you for something else. Like, that's the reality of it. And we see so many high-paying professions, especially in initially high-paying professions, things like lawyers, IT programmers, stuff that you're expected to get a check, doctors, a check as soon as you come out of this school. And they have some of the lowest satisfactions out there. And a lot of people would just blame it on the work. Well, it's the work. It's too demanding. No one likes being a lawyer anyway, so everyone hates it. The answer is no. If you're in the process of going down one of those careers, you're a self-selecting agent where this is something that appeals to me. I do want to learn it. I do want to do it. But now that I'm actually employed, it doesn't jive with what I thought it was. And the real number one reason behind it is because the person they're going home to expected them to be home at 5. And because they came home at 6:30, 7, 8, or whatever, because they're putting extra time into their career, it's hurting their life at home. And too many companies are neglecting that fact altogether. You want to be good at selling cars, you have to work every weekend and late at nights. Well, that's date night. That's missing a lot of t-ball practices. But you're getting people to want to come there because I can see something for me at home what I'm getting out of it. I'm getting collectively a month's worth of me and you time on a vacation going to some of the best destinations in the world. So you want your employees to run through fire? Treat them like people. Don't treat them like a cog in a machine. And if you want employees to stop or prospects to stop lying to you, refer back to that earlier conversation we had about being vulnerable and them knowing that you're understanding their problems successfully. That's how it goes. And that's how you get prospects to never want to lie to you again, and how to get your employees to run through fire for you.
Love it. Love it. That's a good word. And it's so important because when we get those people that will run through fire for us, every one of them's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're gone, it's like, oh my gosh, right? It's a
You can
big
make it
deal.
so they never want to leave. If you honor what they're doing from the personal side of their life and actually know what's motivating them, they won't leave. And there's 20 different motivating factors that all of us have. We all rank them differently. And I guess I'll leave you at this. I'm sorry you're trying to wrap up the show, but of those 20 different motivating factors, every single boss that you've ever hated, his top 5 and your top 5 did not line up. The bosses you love the most have the most overlap. It makes all of us different. It's why it's hard to truly be an effective boss, but that's a fact of life too. Don't ignore the fact that we're people. We have preferences and our brains are the way they are. That doesn't make you a bad person. Live in reality and do the best with it. And sometimes you use outside tools and helps to help incentivize people. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's a good word. It's a good word. Love it. Well, Joe, thank you for these insights. This has been really good. I mean, just really fun stuff, but also just some deeper insights on really human behavior is what we spent a decent bit about time talking about. But that's what drives business. If we can get the people part right, everything else gets a lot easier. And too often, and you know this from real estate, it's always there. 80% of trainings like on the house. Well, the house is not an animate object, and many problems come. So again, thank you for your insights on all of this because it's super important. And to our listeners, you'll see the links below to how to connect with Joe. We'll have a link to his podcast shows, the book. I'm going to pick up a copy of the book because this sounds very intriguing. I like the idea of going on a cruise, so we'll see. But in the meantime,
that's Elite Business Cruises. That's EliteBusinessCruises.com.
I mean,
You check that one out right now.
I know some people are like, I don't do the boat thing, but a lot of us do. So,
Cruise culture is real and it is amazing.
yes, yes. So again, to everybody, check out Joe. Check out the links below. Connect with him. And if it's something that can be a fit for your business or his services, definitely reach out to him. So, Joe, thank you again for being on the show. It's been very insightful, much appreciated. Can you leave us with a final word?
Yeah, if you're going to really do this correctly, and you're right, you nailed that summary so well. We talked a lot about human behavior and human relationships. Every person is built to have successful relationships. And the better you are at them, the better every other element of your life becomes. You have better conversations with your daughter. You're able to connect with your coworkers. You're able to connect with every other person in your life, and your life just becomes better. There's a set of drills that you can go through that we can teach you, that which you can see in the book. But the answer is that it all comes down to having better relationships and actually working on them. And most people want to have better relationships. They just have no idea how. It's like, go get on that bike and start pedaling. Once you figure it out, you'll figure it out. Well, the problem is we all learn how to pedal relationship-wise, in most cases, I guess in real life, when we were like 13. And that's the brain that you had then is not the same as your adult brain now. Putting work into building your relationships as an adult and how you go about and doing it is an incredibly personal and powerful thing. And it's probably the best thing you ever can do for yourself and the rest of your life overall. Because it's a ripple effect that just helps everyone as you improve.
It's a good word. It's a good word. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Joe, for sharing. I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you. Likewise.